Sprains, strains, and automobiles. Yes, it's a play on words. Well, very confusing for the two millennials out there who are studying health and don't have any idea who John Candy is. Hello, Tyler and Mackenzie, and welcome to Stuart Cox's Health Rocks. Turn off the bloody TikTok and listen closely. Sprains and strains are two of the most common terms used when people say they've injured something. Unless they want more sympathy, in which case they'll say they've trapped a nerve or slipped a disc, despite it being very unlikely. In fact, it's very difficult for most professionals to diagnose these things accurately, but that's for another episode. Focus. Sprains. Sprain is a tear in ligaments, which is the stuff that connects two bones together. That is, they make a joint. Not one of those joints. Remember the song? Thumb bone connects to the wrist bone. The wrist bone is actually called a carpal bone, and that has nothing to do with carp bones. Sprains are most common in the ankle. Think potholes, think high heels, think sick dance moves with the feet. As the tissue tears due to too much force, possibly even making a crack sound. Not loud enough to be heard though over your screams. They can be mild tears, think less than half the fibres of a rope, or unstable tears if they tear most of it or rupture the whole goddamn thing. It's pretty nasty. Mild sprains, if treated well, will heal in 6 weeks or less, whereas complete ruptures may take months as scar tissue develops. Now, a word on scar tissue. Not only is it the Chili Peppers' worst song that plagiarised Blur's Country House, but also scar tissue is structurally and functionally very different from what it was beforehand. Inferior, weaker, and undergoing constant remodelling over the years. It's like comparing Californication to Blood Sugar Sex Magic Chili Peppers. It's looser and lacking the best attributes that made the original formation so strong. You know what's going on when your friend rolls their ankle, breaking the girl, as it were. Strains. Now, in keeping with old music references, if you didn't sprain it, maybe you can blame it on the strain. Yeah, that's terrible. Strains are tears in muscles and tendons, which contract to push and pull our bones around rather than just hold them together like ligaments. A strain typically means a mild muscle tear, but really all tears are strains and all strains are tears. So enough with the confusion. Did someone say contusion? That's when a muscle has had a blunt impact or compression. Think of like a dead arm, bam, or a corked leg or a nipple cripple. That causes damage to the underlying tissues, and that's something that's done by damage by direct force. Strains, however, are from indirect force, like when you see a sprinter pull up like he's been shot in the back of the leg, or like he's seen another male celebrity in a skirt trying to look good. Anyway, you see, strain happens when the tension created in the muscle is too much for it to cope with, and with a wee little bing, the tear causes swelling and bleeding. What do we do now? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's time to go physio mode. Muscles have plastic potential, which means they can regenerate and remodel much like the T-1000 in Terminator 2, but not with the sweet-ass metallic paint job. What else is downright bonza is that they can reorganise nerve fibres and even change what type of muscle fibres they have within them. So you can change the muscle effectively to sprint quicker, run longer, or lift more massive weights and star in your own Marvel film. The main damage seen in strains is that disrupted fibres of muscles can't contract or stretch like normal, making you limp like an 18th century pirate, who is probably actually the original hat hipster, to be fair. The body then sends the good cells to take away all the bad stuff and lays down some proteins and collagens so that we can start getting back some of those abilities. That is, by exercise, not rest. So, why do we strain some muscles more than others? Well, like the hamstrings, quads, biceps, and calf muscles. Yeah, well, researchers believe it's because they're muscles that act on two joints. Can anybody act on two joints? Now, let me explain. The bicep flexes the elbow, but also flexes the shoulder. Put your hands up for Detroit. Two joint muscles deal with large forces and have to change their contractions quickly. Think of it like being in a tug of war. My bicep has control the lengthening as I start to lose, and then it has to shorten for me to bring my hand closer to the shoulder. That's the 2-joint muscle thing. Okay, you've been told you got a grade 2 strain or tear. Grade 1 tears and strains mean minimal damage and loss of power. Grade 2 means more damage and a definite loss of power. And grade 3 means total disruption. I can't even pull a little bit with this bicep. If you use the tug of war anthology, I'm probably going to lose my old housemate Joel. That's tough. What about my rotator cuff has a full thickness tear? Cue the music.
Big deal.
This is not the same as a total rupture. A full thickness tear can be a minuscule 1 millimeter little hole in a tendon or a muscle. Think about it like a woodworm hole, but these just occur as we get older. So, especially in the shoulder, as the bone hits it, people over the age of 70, more than 50% have them. And that's what you have to pay for having such worldly wisdom, okay? And it's probably from weighing yourself down with all that stupendous wealth and power. I know there are 2 Gibbons out there saying, how do we know this happens? Well, fear not, curious minds, because we intentionally injured a bunch of animals in labs who look nothing like us. Rabbits, rats, these things. But they have muscles similar to ours in structure. So pay your respects to those vermin. Yes, I still believe they got the cheese, if that makes you feel better. Automobiles. Well, why the hell are we talking about automobiles? Well, aside from puns for film buffs, I've popped it in here since our bodies have similar complexity and synchronicity of systems, much like that of cars. Really? We exclude those electro thingies that have a range from about here to the end of your driveway, and they're made by that strange guy who looks like Michael Myers from, what isn't he from, was it Halloween? Maybe. They'll be the first wave of the war against the machines, people, mark my words. And I'm fine with that, so long as someone leaves me with some scotch and a cyborg that looks a little bit like Alicia Vikander. Look, that's up. I don't know. Cyborg Vikander. Okay, where was I? Cars. You see, they have fuel, electrical and mechanical systems. And our bodies, also shock, bam, wham, have a delicate interplay of these systems as well. Like a conductor balances the sections of an orchestra, we have to be able to differentiate the roles of nerves, that's your electricity, bones and soft tissues, they're the mechanics, and the fuel that we put into our system that runs this wicked piece of man meat. So, we can't just look at one without appreciating the roles of the other systems. But unlike automobiles, we have one huge difference that may influence our recovery and repair, and that is a psychological or thinking system. And I mention this because stress, thoughts, and psychological factors can and do influence our responses to treatment and recovery. And that, my friends, is worthy of another Stuart Cox deep dive. Well, I know you're going to ask now, what treatment is best? Well, again, this will get its own video full of bad jokes and strange terms, which I will get around to in between patients who have broken themselves. So, just like, subscribe, comment below so YouTube can send you crappy ads and recommend you other videos that don't involve those Paul brothers or some Asian makeup chickie.